it's pretty unreal to win the regular season in the ACC for back-to-back years and then go on to win the conference tournament. And I think every single time that's happened in the ACC, that team has gone on to Omaha.
It's been really cool to see the team not only live up to the expectations, but I think a lot of people would say they've exceeded them.
James Ramsey just got a 5-year extension today. He's probably going to be making over $1 million to get up into where the SEC coaches are paying.
There's been 55 sellouts for Georgia Tech athletics in the 2025-2026 athletic year. Is this one of the best times, or at least most promising or exciting times in recent history, or in history in general, to be a Georgia Tech fan? Patrick, here goes nothing, man. Jolly Good Fellows is back. I don't even know if I can say that we're back, or if this is a new start, or if we're just, I don't know. All I know is that we're back. It feels good to be back. There's a lot of exciting things happening at Georgia Tech right now. And it's nice to talk to you, man.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think last time we talked, it was right before baseball season.
Yeah.
Finishing up basketball season. So now we get what's been probably one of the best sporting years, or not sporting years, seasons in the individual Georgia Tech program probably ever. It's probably, I'd say you could argue it's the best Tech baseball team ever. It might be the best Tech team in the modern era in any of the big three sports. So it's been a pretty fun year. They've been a lot of fun to watch. I've been to a bunch of games this year, and I'm excited for this regional, man. It's time for us to get over the regional hex and go ahead and get to a super regional, get to Omaha. This team has a chance to win a national title.
It's crazy to hear that, man, and it's so fun to watch. I've obviously been pretty forward about it on my social media stuff, that this is my first year watching baseball, and we're going to talk a lot about that. Just about what you just mentioned, the baseball team, the regional coming up, individual performances, how the regionals work, things like that. And then we'll briefly talk about some other things going on in the Georgia Tech athletic world as well. We hope to make this more of a regular thing as we approach the football season, but hopefully you guys have understood that. As I learned baseball, I'm probably not the person that you want to tune into on a weekly basis here, talk and actively learn about the sport as I'm trying to talk on a podcast about it. That just won't make a lot of sense. But Patrick here knows a really great bit about it. So let's throw it over to you, Patrick. Georgia Tech, 48-9 regular season, right?
Yeah, 48-9, and then I think what was it, ended up being 28-5 in the ACC, which broke. I think Louisville in 2015, they went 25-5, but they went 0-2 back when they used to do pool play instead of single elimination in the ACC tournament. So it's pretty unreal to win the regular season in the ACC for back-to-back years and then go on to win the conference tournament. And I think every single time that's happened in the ACC, that team has gone on to Omaha. So that's a good hex for us as well. And it really started last year when we did win that ACC regular season title. You really saw all those pieces coming back and going to the portal to get Avicula and Ryan Zuckerman, and you thought this team was going to be pretty special. And last year, it wasn't quite as good as this. Like, you knew there's a lot of talent, but they're all really young. And when all those guys decided to come back, I knew this year was going to be really good.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I've been poured about it on social media, but you, among a lot of other people, were telling me, hey, man, if there's a year to get into the dang sport, this is the one. You got James Ramsey leading the team for the first time. You got, again, like you just said, a lot of returning talent. Everybody was so high on Georgia Tech coming into the year. The expectations were through the roof. It's been really cool to see the team not only live up to the expectations, but I think a lot of people would say they've exceeded them. What do you think about that? Have they raised the bar based on where you thought the bar was going into the year?
Yeah, so D1 Baseball had them ranked number 5. I think Perfect Game had them 2. Maybe Baseball America had them 2 or 3. They really did shatter every expectation. The fact that they were projected to win the ACC, they did it going away. They won it by 3 games. They won the ACC tournament, sort of pounded the way through that. It wasn't a close game in the ACC tournament. And then whenever the bats went to the BB core, or back in 2011, this is the best offense ever. So they've broken every expectation. They're so fun to watch. You look at even the crowds, like how many sellouts they had this year at Rusty C. It's been insane. And if you look at tickets trying to go this weekend, I'm trying to get some on Sunday, so somebody can help me out there. I'd appreciate it. But yeah, it's been unreal. James Ramsey speaking of that, the Devil just got a 5-year extension today. He's probably going to be making over $1 million to get up into the where the SEC coaches are paying. So the bar has been raised for Tech baseball. I think that there's the big donor that just came through that gave about $5 million, or will match up to $5 million for the baseball program. It's huge, and I love college baseball. I've gotten into it, and I think I'm super pumped that like you gotten into it, and we're building a bunch of other people because the sport's growing. I think at a really healthy rate, and so there's going to be a lot of excitement here over the next couple of weeks, and hopefully this team can make a run into late June because if they don't do it now, it's going to be hard for a team to have this much talent on it ever again.
Yeah, they've been pretty clear. I feel like, if you heard Drew Burr say, you've heard a lot of guys on the team say that the goal is Omaha. And not just Omaha, but a national championship. So, I'm sure they're proud of themselves for how far they've come and all the things that they've accomplished up to this point. But the mission is still ahead of them. And the ultimate goal is still, out there within reach for sure, but it's still out there. They've got to do their job to make that part happen. What do you think about the regional? I think it's Oklahoma, Citadel, and UIC coming into Atlanta. Do you feel like that was a good draw for Georgia Tech?
I do. I think that you probably figured Georgia Tech would get an SEC team, and if there was an SEC team that was going to be a number 2 seed, I would have picked Oklahoma to be that team. Oklahoma's not super great at anything. They've lost 9 of their last 13 games. They're not great on offense. They don't have a great pitching staff. They've been really kind of just tripping through the SEC play there towards the end. Obviously, as the last several years where we've been on the road at regionals, it's such a tough to win a regional on the road, and that's why hosting is such a big deal, and especially being a national seed. But I think the regional is as good as Tech's had it, probably even hosting it since like 2008 or 9, or not 2009, probably. Uh, you have the number 4 team, which is UIC or Illinois Chicago, and they're just, I mean, no disrespect to that bunch, but they're not a good team. Tech will not. If Tech loses to them, then they will be in some serious trouble. But they won't lose to them. They're really bad. And then the Citadel, who I think has some really good pitching. They beat actually probably the reason Mercer's not in the NCAA tournament. I think that was one of the big
big snub.
The big snubs on selection day is because the Citadel beat them back to back in the SoCon tournament. So you can blame the Citadel if you're any Mercer fans watching this. They're the reason you probably didn't make the dance. But I think it's a great regional for Tech. It sets up pretty nicely. I think that they're going to overpower. Probably they're way better than every other team in the regional. Now, with that said, I've seen some Tech teams lose regionals before in dramatic ways. But I think if Georgia Tech just shows up, they don't even have to have their A game to win. They could probably win by several runs with their C game. And I know people will probably listen to this being like, just being cocky. It's just the truth with this team. They've given us no reason to think anything else as well. If you watch the entire season, how they respond, the only the only series they lost, they made up for it because when they beat Carolina in the tournament championship. So the regional matches up really well. And I think if you want to get a little bit further out, the regional that they're paired with. So to explain, I don't know how many new timers we have to college baseball. Everybody is in a regional, so Tech will advance out of the regional. So then that will get you to the super regionals where it's 16 teams. Tech is paired with Lawrence, Kansas. So Kansas is the other team, that number 1 seed that we would play. They're the number 15 overall seed. Tech's obviously number 2. That's why they're paired with them. So Tech would play Kansas. Now there's a chance they could play Arkansas because that's another team in that regional. And either way, I think Tech matches up really well against any team that would come from that regional, and that gets you to Omaha. So I mean, I think that this atmosphere is going to be unreal in the flats this weekend. Sold out in 30 seconds
30 seconds, man. 30.
Yeah. And I do think there are going to be some tickets going out again for sale tomorrow because the opposing, like the Citadel and UIC and Oklahoma, I think that they get an allotment as well. So any allotment that they get will get sent back. So Tech fans need to look out on social media to be able to claim those.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. You made a lot of good points there. A couple things that I want to ask you about. You talked about going from the regional to the super regional. For those people who, again, like you said, are just getting into the sport or maybe watching the postseason for the first time, certainly not myself. What are you, what does it take to get through your regional into that super regional? How many wins does it take? Who do you have to beat? What does that look like?
So in college baseball, each round it's double elimination. So if you lose a game, you end up having another chance. Now, with a regional, it's 4 teams, and everybody says pitching is really important. You want to stay healthy pitching. It's because of these first regionals when you're playing games where it's really going to test the depth of your team. And if you can go 3-0 through a regional, it's just like sweeping a regular series. So you really don't put a lot of pressure on your bullpen or anything.
Sure.
Where Georgia Tech has gotten themselves in trouble in the past in the regionals is dropping a game, the first or second game that they shouldn't have when they're hosting a regional. You can think back to 2019 against Auburn when they hit a walk-off against Connor Thomas in the
I
ninth
actually do
inning.
remember that.
In the bottom of the ninth inning, that ended up making Georgia Tech have to play an extra game the next Sunday. So they had to go in and beat Coastal Carolina, who they beat, I think, in extra innings. And then they had to go and play Auburn. They're exhausted. You think back to when they lost to Georgia a couple of years ago. They had to win twice that day, and then they lost to Georgia in extra innings. So it's a double elimination. But what usually happens, you have to win on Friday, you win Saturday, and then you play Sunday night to clinch the regional. But the nice thing is if you win those first two games, even if you lose Sunday night, then you get another chance on Monday night because you've only lost one time. So it's double elimination. It's a round robin. There's 4 teams, and only one team makes it out of the regional, and that gets you to the Super.
And for Georgia Tech, it's UIC on Friday at noon. After that, the following matchups will be determined based on the results of those Friday
So based on the Citadel and Oklahoma game, Tech will play the winner of that. And then the loser of that game will probably play UIC in the loser's bracket game on Saturday. And then whoever wins that game would have to win 3 more times. So they'd have to go win a doubleheader on Sunday and then win again on Monday night. So it's really difficult to do. If you think back to last year, the team that came out of Georgia Tech's regional was the 4 seed, Murray State.
I remember
Murray State won the first 2 games. They upset Ole Miss, and then they upset Georgia Tech. Then Ole Miss, after beating Georgia Tech, got to beat Murray State that night, but then they had to beat them again on Monday. So it's really difficult to win a regional if you lose one of those first 2 games. I don't know what the stats are, but it's the overwhelming amount of teams that win the first 2 games end up winning the regional. And Georgia Tech, of course, Georgia Tech's done that before where they've blown a 2-0 lead in the regional. I think they did that, but they lost twice to Alabama back in like 2010. So it can be done, but for this team, the pitching's been elite and the hitting's been ungodly.
For sure. Yeah, you talked about, James Ramsey, obviously, again, getting the bonus, or not the bonus, but the extension today through 2031. We'll touch on that here in a minute. But, a big thing that Georgia Tech fans didn't like about Danny Hall was his lack of solid performances in these regional matchups. What does James Ramsey need to do to ensure that Georgia Tech plays at the level that they have been all season and that they need to play at to advance through this regional and get to the Supers?
Right. I think a lot of people got frustrated with Danny Hall's the way that he managed some of the regionals with the bullpen and whatnot. A lot of things just happened that were out of his control. Let's be honest, Danny did not have a team like this probably since his early 2000 days. And so whenever he was coaching this, he choked and he underachieved a lot. But if you look at some of his later tenure, like last year in the year, like he was having to go on the road to Tennessee, go on the road to Georgia, go on the road to Ole Miss, go on the road to Vanderbilt. And that's just not an easy it's really hard to win a regional on the road. I think if James Ramsey just continues to have like a fire, he's aggressive at the plate and he's really quick to pull people pitching. I think that he doesn't let anybody, get too far behind or get shelled too early. He'll be quick to pull the trigger, pretty quick to go to the bullpen. I think if he does that, it'll be fine. And again, Georgia Tech can have their C game and win most of these games. I think Oklahoma is probably the biggest threat in the regional, but Georgia Tech is a lot better than Oklahoma.
I feel like Citadel could be scary just because, like you said,
pitching. Yeah, they do. But however, I
feel like they might have a little bit of a hot hand. Obviously, Mercer being one of the 9 teams all year to overcome Georgia Tech at least one time. And for them to beat them twice, it feels like to me that they're at least worth respecting going into that game.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they are, and I think that the Citadel, like they actually are, like I don't know what their RPI is, but they're playing really well. I mean, they're a 3 seed who won the SoCon, so that sort of tells you about the respect that they're not a 4 seed. And they have really good pitching. So it'd be interesting to see that Oklahoma Citadel game. That is actually the later game tomorrow. I think Georgia Tech flipped the script a little bit. It used to be whenever we'd host a regional, we'd play the later game. But I think 11 of the 16 teams who are hosting a regional are playing the earlier game. I guess it gives you more time to recover, after the game.
Well, we know that the Citadel had some good luck, some good fortune coming to Atlanta for football in recent years. Let's hope that's not the case for baseball. And,
Yeah, this is a baseball podcast. I don't want to get if we can,
but you
no.
talk about the 12 o'clock game. I don't think, like you said, tickets sell out in 30 seconds. I don't think attendance will be any kind of concern at all for Friday. Certainly expecting a packed house at Rush Chandler Stadium. And on that note, there's been 55 sellouts for Georgia Tech athletics in the 2025-2026 athletic year, which exceeded their expectations or their goal of 50. And it just makes me wonder. Before I ask you the question, though, we'll run through how that all broke down. It was 4 sellouts for the football team, including the Pop Tarts Bowl. 16 for the baseball team, so a lot of credit goes to the baseball team. 15 as well for the volleyball team, so shout out to them. 14 for the softball team, and then 1 for the men's basketball team, the men's tennis team, and then there's some other things on here. The Chris Brown Breezy Bowl tour. I guess we're counting
Were
that
you
as
at that
a
one?
sellout.
Were you at the Breezy Bowl?
Yeah, we're counting that as a sellout for Georgia Tech, and then a couple other things as well. But all in all, a really, really impressive year. It makes me wonder, again, obviously baseball coming off potentially one of the better years ever for the program. The basketball team is the basketball team. You make what I think a lot of people would consider to be a pretty encouraging hire. Football team coming off of a strong season. Softball team and volleyball teams, both very respectable programs. The tennis team's good. The golf team is good. Is this one of the best times, or at least most promising or exciting times in recent history, or in history in general, to be a Georgia Tech fan?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that baseball, it really depends. Like, hey, if I know football's king, and I'm not going to pretend it's not king for me too, but this baseball national championship, it's going to be a huge deal if we can get there. If we can get to
Oh my
Omaha,
gosh.
it's going to be awesome. So I'd say it is. And you look at the direction of the football team that, they won 9 games. I know at the end of the last year, we talked a bunch about it on the podcast, but I think that there's a lot of room for optimism for that. And if basketball can get rolling a little bit under Scott Cross, then yeah, I'd say it's a great time to join the bandwagon. I think that the baseball team has done so much for to create new fans. I'm sure that they're already talking about having to be able to add on seating for the stadium in
Yeah,
the future, which they need to do for if they have a regional, you can't just have the 4,000 people there. They need to be able to have an extra 2 to 3,000. But I think it's a great time. And if they get basketball rolling, I think football has a chance to be pretty good this year as well. So if you go on a deep run here in Omaha, and then you go in and you capitalize in football early with 2 huge games to start off the bat next season, I will say that, yeah, the bandwagon will be rolling.
for sure. Yeah, buy Georgia Tech stock if you're a sideline fan. The bandwagon has room on it. There's some seats left on the train if you want to jump on. We'll take it. And before we just move on from baseball and just briefly talk about a couple other things as far as the athletics go, I do want to say one thing. I did tweet this, but I feel like it's worth noting on the podcast as well. The $2.5 million matching donation, resulting in $5 million of total scholarship money for Georgia Tech baseball. You touched on that earlier. Obviously, a huge, huge, huge thing for the baseball team, and will set it up for lots of success moving forward. I just want to give a shout out to that person, whoever it is, whether you're listening to this or not.
I'll just say it. I did it, but
You are, a couple people have said this under the tweet, but something's got to be named after me if I'm donating something.
yeah, I promise you, I'm not going to be anonymous. I mean, hopefully one day I make that much money, I will not be anonymous. I will let you know if I do that.
Oh, me
I
too.
saw you
Me
say
too.
that too. I was like, yeah, I'll. You will be going up to the Patrick Made beer cooler up there or something. It'd be a
That's
lot
probably
of
what they
different
would
stuff.
name it, to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to that person, man. A huge, huge, huge thing for them. Real quickly, something that happened today was the first 4 games for Georgia Tech football kickoff times were announced. Let's go over those real quick because there's some exciting stuff on there. First things first, and we already knew this, Thursday night against Colorado is an 8 p.m. kickoff on ESPN. Primetime game for the Jackets once again to open the season, again against the Fighting Deion Sanders Colorado Buffaloes. What do you think about that? That's going to be a pretty fun night in Bobby Dodd to open the year.
Yeah, that Thursday. I looked at the Thursday schedule that to open up. There's not really any other games that are even between Power Five teams, so that's going to be a great atmosphere. It will really sort of be the all eyes on Tech, so I'm sure it'll get
Again,
great ratings. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that Georgia Tech will probably be a favorite in that game by a decent amount, because I'm not sure what to think about Colorado this upcoming season. I think that Dion has his health issues, and Georgia Tech has a lot of question marks as well. But that game being at home and with all the question marks really around the Colorado football program and how they ended last year, I think that Tech should be able to win that one, setting up with the Tennessee game, which I guess you'll probably go to next.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would expect another sellout. Just kind of on the topic of sellouts, I would expect that to be a sold out game for Georgia Tech, coming off the season we just had last year. The Thursday night thing might throw some people off. That will probably keep some folks away. But I think Colorado's got a pretty good conglomerate, and they might show up pretty well as well, which is good. We always like when an opposing team with gold colors comes to the stadium. It allows us to take a nice picture of the stadium, and it looks like it's full of Georgia Tech fans.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that there'll also probably be some people in Atlanta. I just want to go watch Dion coach because
For
of his
sure.
connections to the city. So I'm sure it'll be a great crowd, if it's close to a sellout, if not a sellout.
Yeah. It's another night game after that for Tennessee. It's a 7 p.m. kickoff once again on ESPN. That one I'm super excited for. I was just telling a buddy of mine, weird things happen at Bobby Dodd Stadium at night, and we can only hope that more weird good things happen in that game against Tennessee. But gonna be electric for sure. After that, you get Mercer at noon on ACC Network, which is probably expected. After two primetime night games, you're probably going to get a new kickoff when you're playing Mercer. And then finally, some Georgia Tech after dark, Stanford at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That one's on September 26th. Man, that's going to be interesting to watch Georgia Tech play at midnight.
Yeah, that'll be late. I think I'm going to that game, so it won't be quite as late for
Are
me. So
you?
I believe so. I think I'm going out there. It's not 100% certain yet. But I'm going to try to. I got to get all my ACC stadiums tallied off because things haven't been to Stanford and a couple other ones yet. So
That's
I'm
true.
gonna do that. Got to get all those off, but that's gonna be an interesting game. That's one of those games that it could be really boring in the stadium. Not very many people there. Kind of has a trap game written on it a little bit, but we can worry about that in a couple months.
Yeah, we'll obviously dive a lot into to the more specific details of the football team, the football season as we get closer to that. Again, hopefully we'll be starting to do these a little bit more regularly as we approach the season, and then definitely once we get 2 months, 1 month out, we'll be
Yeah,
back on our normal schedule.
and if
Um,
we make it to Omaha or anything like that, we'll do a
oh yeah,
full. I'll do a full Omaha breakdown. See if we can't get maybe a special guest or something on to break it down because
yeah, that would be super
we're not
cool.
gonna do it this year. It's probably not. It's I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Yeah. Finally, I mean, just a couple off-topic things. Georgia Tech golf just made a freaking phenomenal hire. I'm talking about potentially the best hire that any team in the country could have made. Bringing Ryan Heibel from Oklahoma, who's a national champion, a former,
Bulldog.
yeah, I didn't know how to say that, but yeah, a former UGA guy. Apparently, they didn't even ring his phone. They didn't even call him to see if he wanted to come to Athens. So I'm kind of excited about that. Put a chip on the guy's shoulder who really doesn't need one. His pedigree is already about as high as it can get for a golf
Was
coach.
was Georgia hiring for a new golf coach as well?
I think I saw something about their golf coach is potentially done after this year. I might be wrong on that, but I want to say I did see that. And if that's the case, and they didn't even try to call this guy, shame on them. Shame on their athletic director, and shame on the whole freaking program. By the way, this brings me back to another topic. Your offense isn't as good as Georgia Tech's. It's just not. And we're talking about baseball again now. Your offense isn't as good. If you're a
Oh
UGA
yeah,
fan
you
listening
tweeted
to this,
that.
I'm not sorry.
There's one category Georgia has that's better than Tech, and it's home runs. But Georgia Tech is significantly not just better than Georgia; they're significantly better than every other offensive category. Doesn't mean Georgia's not really good. And guess what? We might. There's a very good chance we play them in Omaha. So I don't want to talk too much. You know what yet? Because if
Screw it,
we
man.
get there, we lose that would. But Georgia's very good. Georgia Tech is. I would say there's not very many position players. If you went up and down the field, that you would choose a Georgia player over Tech. You
Yeah.
may choose one. I'd be hard pressed to think of what people will say. Dan Jackson, their catcher. There's go look at the draft boards. There's a reason that Von Lackey's where he's at on the draft boards, and that where Dan Jackson's where he's at. Great player. He's not Von Lackey.
Yeah. 14-4 speaks for itself at a neutral site. But again, that's just going and touching on some old things. But yeah, a really great hire for Georgia Tech golf. Obviously, Coach Hepler is a legend in his own right. But to bring in a guy like this, for a team that had a couple really good years, but for the
They
last
won a
2 years,
national title, didn't they?
They
Oklahoma.
went to the national championship twice, so they played match play for the national championship twice. They didn't win it, but they did play for it 2 years in a row, which was so fun to watch. So if the baseball team makes it, I'm sure it's going to be absolutely electric. But yeah, long list of accolades for this coach, and going to be really cool to see if he can turn Georgia Tech golf into the program that it seems like it's trending towards being. And then finally, shout out to Jose Alvarado and the New York Knicks. They are going to the NBA Finals. He's not been playing a whole lot of minutes for the Knicks in this playoff run, but when he has, he's been super valuable. I don't know if you've been able to watch any of that.
Yeah, I watched the game. I have a buddy who's a Knicks fan. Watched it the other night with him, and so yeah, Jose Alvarado, congrats on him. Maybe he can go get a ring. He got one while he was at Tech, one of the ACC. So maybe he can go get another one with New York.
Yeah, for sure. What a great trade for him, kind of mid-season trade. You're at a team that isn't making the playoffs. He was getting good minutes and everything, but you go to your hometown back in New York and get to play at MSG and just be a part of a team that's now making a really great run. And obviously the West is looking super strong. Whether it ends up being OKC or San Antonio, those are kind of the favorites going into the finals. But hey, the Knicks have looked good, so we'll see. I don't know if I'm rooting for them, but for Jose, I hope that
I'll root for Jose just because I want him to get a ring. So that sounds good to me.
For sure. Well, I don't know if we've got anything else, man. I think that about does
not
it.
really. I mean, we'll break it down some more Tech baseball hopefully here soon. Games at noon tomorrow, and then it would be on Saturday night and then Sunday night. So hopefully we can take care of this regional really quickly, go 3-0 for the first time since the George Bush administration, and go to a super regional. So let's get that done, and let's go win a national championship. It's incredibly doable right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you guys listening. Once again, sorry for the long hiatus. I said I would explain, so I should offer some sort of explanation. I'm getting married in like 3 weeks. So we've had a lot of that stuff going on. Also, once again, learning about baseball as the season's going. So probably not the best person to talk about it on a very frequent basis. But yeah, a lot going on. But once this wedding stuff's over with, you got me. You got me back full time. I'm here for it. But once again, thank you guys for listening. It's been fun. I appreciate Patrick as always for hopping on. Appreciate you guys for listening. We'll be back again soon. Thanks again for listening to the Jolly Good Fellows podcast.